Hello everyone and welcome to my new video. This is House of the Dead 2 and 3 on the Nintendo Wii, and this particular one I'm playing here is House of the Dead 2. Didn't really know an awful lot about these games, to be perfectly honest, until I came across House of the Dead 2 on the Sega Dreamcast. I had a play of it and I quite enjoyed it. A friend of mine actually got the game and it was bundled with a light gun. Now unfortunately light guns don't particularly like LCD TVs, so thankfully Nintendo have made this work with their Wii remote, which is pretty standard. It's what they should do, because the Wii remote is actually quite good for this, and if you've got the Wii Zapper that makes it even better. It's a bit of an odd game. It's another one of the on-rail shooters, and you can see where the Resident Evil games drew their inspiration from and why the Resident Evil games were so well suited to actually having this type of game in their franchise slash genre. The problem is that this game is so badly acted. It's quite comical. It does have an almost cult status in terms of the fact that it's just so damn poor. But, you know, it's based on an arcade game, so you can't really expect too much from it. And, you know, let's face it, the storyline at the end of the day isn't particularly important. What's just important is how good it is blasting the various hordes of monsters, zombies and other assorted undead back to whence they came. The main problem with the game is that, and the problem I found, was that you spend so much time reloading that it gets kind of annoying. And what's more annoying is the guy keeps saying reload, and if you keep shooting he actually keeps saying reload, but it's like he keeps repeating it over and over again, and I'm like, yeah, okay, it's now getting a bit tedious, it's now getting a bit annoying, can you please sod off and stop telling me to reload? It would have been nice for the game to have actually given you more ammunition than what it does. You just sort of have the very, very basics. Now obviously I imagine that you can level up and so on and so forth. That would be pretty cool, that would be pretty neat. But I didn't particularly get far enough into the game, to be perfectly honest with you. It is quite difficult. It's substantially more difficult than the Resident Evil games, even on the difficulty setting. And this is in part probably to do with its arcade origins, where the Resident Evil games were designed specifically for being played on a games console. You know, they weren't arcade games as such, although they were based heavily upon this. You know, this game itself is based on an arcade game, and therefore, you know, it kind of has some, how can I say it, its heritage is in the arcade, so naturally the difficulty level gets ramped up. And it is a Sega game as well, and the Sega games are notorious for being difficult. It's got some really cool boss battles in it as well, like this, whatever the hell that's supposed to be, some kind of merman, or I don't know, I haven't got a clue what it is, but you know, it's weird. But yeah, it's a pretty good game. As I say, the only problem is, I mean, it's viewed in some quarters as being sort of a classic on-rail shooter, and I can see why. You know, it does bear all the hallmarks of, you know, being a classic on-rail shooter, and, you know, you factor in the monsters and so on and so forth, and that just makes it even better. But it does, as I say, it does have the annoying things, and I do get fed up of having to reload every few seconds. That element in itself, you see, is a bit of a problem with the Wii remote, because you kind of have to, you know, do the usual shake or click away from the screen really quick. And as I say, it does end up annoying. I can't remember with this one actually now whether you do. Yeah, you kind of duck down and click off the screen to reload, and it just becomes quite annoying. And it's a great shame really, because you know, I think when you're going to do something like this, you have to bear in mind it's not an arcade machine. Well, anyway, this is now House of the Dead 3, and straight away you can see there's been a vast improvement in the graphics, and there's also an improvement in the gameplay. And what I mean by that is the gun, for starters, you're kind of using a shotgun rather than a pistol, and although you know you still have the same limited amount of ammunition and you still have to reload all the time, you still, it doesn't seem as annoying. I think it's because it does more damage, and so they kind of kept a very similar system in place but made it less annoying, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And yeah, I prefer this one a lot more. They kind of worked a bit harder as well on the dialogue and the story. It's still fairly rubbish, but it's nowhere near as bad as House of the Dead 2. I mean, as I say, that was that bad. It was comical, and the environments as well are a lot more varied too. So yeah, it's rather good. And then, as I say, the boss battles I think are a lot better as well. You know, they're a bit more intense, not as quite as straightforward as before, which you kind of expect in a sequel, but you know, this is rather good. And as I say, I do prefer House of the Dead 3 than House of the Dead 2. All these things being said, I've never played it before. I actually played it on the Wii. I never played this. I'm assuming it was an arcade machine, but I certainly never played it. I think it came out on the original Xbox, and it probably came out with a light gun or something like that, but I didn't really have that much interest in it. I mean, to be honest with you, light gun games or on-rail shooters aren't especially a genre that I go for, and the reason that I went for these 3 or 4 games on the Wii was I just wanted to see, I just felt the Wii would perhaps be a more suitable console. I was never a fan of a light gun anyway. I always found them a bit cumbersome, and I always found them a bit hit and miss as well, and not to mention the fact that there was always methods with which you could cheat with the old light gun games too, which you can't really do on the Wii. With the Wii remote, you can't really cheat in the same way that you could with the old light gun games. I mean, I remember having Rambo 3 on the Master System, and I had the light gun that came with that. I can't remember its name now, but it was like a black pistol, very futuristic looking thing, and that you could cheat on that game, because if you just put the gun closer to the screen, you were virtually assured of the fact that you would never miss. And yeah, it became far too easy. I mean, you literally, you could ramp the difficulty up on those games and complete them without too many problems. And yeah, it's cheating, and it wasn't the best way to play the game, but it was kind of there. I didn't really partake in it because I didn't want to spoil the game. I wanted to play the game properly. You know, notoriously these games are not especially long games, so if you're going to cheat your way through it, you're just wasting your time buying the game in the first place. Whereas, you know, with as I say, with the games on the Wii, it's a lot more difficult to do that. You know, moving the Wii remote closer to the sensor bar is not going to benefit you in any way, shape or form. In fact, it's going to make life a lot more difficult for you. So yeah, like I say, that's why That's why perhaps I never really got into them. I think I had a couple on the PlayStation 2. Sorry, on the PlayStation. One of them was the level in Die Hard trilogy, where you were at the airport, the Dulles Airport from Die Hard 2, and that was an on-rail shooter. And I had a light gun that I played that with, but again, you know, even with that, it didn't really do a lot for me. I actually preferred to play it with the joypad than I did with the light gun. I guess it was just too much messing about trying to you know, switch from one thing to another all the time. It was just wasn't worth it. And as I say, this type of game is perfect for the Wii. It showcases as well that the Wii is capable of good graphics. Not so much these games, because they were sort of retro games, I suppose you could say, re-released on the Wii, but certainly the Resident Evil games did showcase that, you know, you could get some decent graphics on the Wii. And although that they are on-rail shooters, and therefore one would expect the graphics to be, you know, to be, can I say, better. It still was good to see good quality graphics on the Wii, because there was too many games, I think, just tended to cop out with the graphics. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. This is probably the last one of the sort of mini-series I've done for the on-rail shooters for the Wii. I don't think I've got any more games. Oh, I've got, I'm telling a lie, I've got Dead Space, and that's pretty good too. That's a pretty good game, so I'll probably review that at some point in the future. But I've got that on the PlayStation 3. I got that as part of Dead Space 2. So I'll probably review that, because that uses the PS3 move, so that'd be quite good. Anyway, thanks for watching this video.